to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, I'd like to welcome all of you to our February regular Board of Ed meeting. And we have a quorum. Mr. Miller, would you like to introduce our visitors?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I think it's safe to say it's Thursday evening. The extended weather forecast for tomorrow is good, and we will have our first full week of school since December. You're feeling pretty tired out there, aren't you? So good evening and welcome. Pat Fedor is here, principal and representative of the Waterford Administrators Association. I don't see Martha, but Linda Braley from our Classroom Teachers Federation teachers. I don't see Ellen Walensky. And we have a number of our staff, and we have some special guests that we're about to introduce in just a few minutes. So I'd also like to introduce Tess Townsend, who is our new London Day reporter. I think I said to Tess yesterday when we met and talked, it's either my 7th or 8th New London Day reporter in my short term here. So welcome, Tess.
Okay. Before we go any further, this is the time for public comment, so if anybody would like to ask us any questions or say anything, you're welcome to do so now. Ready? Okay. This is the part of the meeting I love. Now it's time for student recognition.
So we have a couple of our students at the elementary level that would like to recognize tonight. But first I'd like to introduce and welcome Kelly Murphy, from Fire Marshal Representative, that's going to give a little background on a contest that the two students that we're recognizing tonight participated in. So welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So, hello. How are you? How you doing? My name is Kelly Murphy, and I am the new community safety educator for the town of Waterford, for those of you that do not already know me or haven't seen me in the school. Trying to fill the very large shoes left by Connie Herman and intern by Liz Field. So it's wonderful to be out in the schools, and thank you for having me. I'm really enjoying my time out there in the school. So I just came into this position in October, and the fire prevention poster contest was well underway, and Liz Fields and Connie Herman were in the process of judging the posters. And the fire prevention safety poster contest happens every year in the state of Connecticut, and you've seen probably the fire prevention calendars that go around throughout the year. Students are judged, 4th and 5th graders in the state. They're judged on their certain criteria of the posters. Obviously, we want the spelling to be correct, but they have to have a certain message, and the message was fire prevention every day, everyone every day. So every 4th and 5th grader made a poster. It was submitted. We selected winners. I wasn't much in the judging because I came in a little late, but I did get to see a whole bunch of great artwork. I do have some with me that I was asked to bring, and maybe they could be put up somewhere or around town. But 4th and 5th grade, each 4th grade and each 5th grade, every school had a winner. First place winner, second place winner, honorable mentions. There was a lot of tough decisions made. And the 4th grade town winner this year is from, I want to make sure I get the school music, Great at School, and that is Michaela and Senkowitz. Is that correct? Okay. And she was the 4th grade town winner from Waterford. Okay. And we also have our 5th grade town winner from Waterford is Maya, and how do you say the last name? Ram? Is that how you say it?
Ram.
Okay. Maya Ram, and she is the 5th grade winner who, her poster also went on to be a county winner, which is now going on to be judged at the state level. And she will be honored with all the state winners with her family and potentially her principal, myself, whoever else can make it, at a luncheon to honor all of the state winners. And her poster is not here this evening because it's at the state level. We do have a copy of it if you'd like to take a look at it, and I brought extras. I can pass those along for you. But I guess now if Michaela from Great Next School, maybe her principal, is going to come up and say a few words, and we do have a certificate for you. And we do have her poster to show you or present to you if you'd like that.
My Michaela.
Michaela and I share the same glasses. Mine are real, her fake. We talked about that a little bit. Michaela's here with her dad, Jeffrey Sekowitz, and her younger sister, Talia. And Michaela and I worked for her poster after making this tonight. So Michaela described it very nicely for me earlier today. But Michaela, maybe if I hold this up, you'd like to describe to the audience what you move back a little bit so they can see what it is that's on this poster.
Well, basically, everything has a smiley face on it. Like, so, this girl, there is a gas fire, and she's pouring water on it, and you're not supposed to pour water onto a gas fire. So, the fire extinguisher is saying, use me to burn out the gas fire, and the trash can is saying, use my light to smother the gas fire. And on the back, right here on this door, it says, smother gas fires with lid and squirt it with fire extinguishers, Don't pour water on a gas fire.
Nicely done, Michaela.
We have a certificate from the board as well.
Congratulations. This is a certificate of appreciation in recognition for your outstanding participation in the Town of Waterford Fire Prevention Poster Contest competition. Congratulations.
And another certificate for you, and this is from the Millennium County Fire Marshals Association, acknowledging you, Michaela Sekowitz, is the town's fourth grade winner for Waterford. That's yours, and congratulations. And I'll be seeing more of you very soon. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So Michaela's here with her dad and her sister. Glad you came.
And our fifth grade winner for the town, who, as I said earlier, is going on to the county contest, is Maya. And like her poster is at the state level right now, and it's not here with us, but that's the correct copy, correct? Okay. So we only have a copy of her poster, but I will let you do a little speaking.
So, Michaela, along with Maya, is, I think, testimony that Waterford kids really have talent. And I don't know if you recognize her from last year. Some of you may have. She was our fourth grade winner, as Kelly said. And we actually went to the luncheon last year as well. But this year I asked her about her poster because I didn't think we had it. But she told me, I asked her about it, and she said it's a scroll because she got her inspiration from social studies class where they're learning about the Constitution, and she actually made her own little scroll and did fire safety amendments with illustrations, and they're absolutely beautiful. So I look forward to seeing her. We're going to go to luncheon next month, and I look forward to seeing her. I just want to say, though, she's here with her mom and dad and her brother Austin.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So congratulations.
And Maya?
Congratulations. This is a certificate of appreciation in recognition of your outstanding participation in the Town of Waterford and the London County Fire Prevention Poster Contest. Excellent. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Certificate of Fire Prevention from Connie Herman, who is now the county representative. Your poster is now in the statewide poster contest. It will be used in the 2015 Fire Prevention Calendar and will be exhibited at various locations, including the state capitol during the month of October. Okay, congratulations. Next up.
Thank you very much.
I know you probably have homework and other things to do, so have a good evening. Thanks for coming very much.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, the minutes from the January 30th, 2014 regular meeting and the January 23rd, 2014 special meeting, the monthly expenditure report for January 2014, and the food service financial report for January 2014.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay. Sherry, do you want to read the correspondence?
I have no correspondence at this time.
And I don't have anything, Kathleen. I don't know if the board is going to see that. On to the superintendent's report.
Okay. I have a few items to share this evening, and the first thing that I'd like to do is just highlight the student artwork from Waterford High School around the room. These are students that are in April Brown's, Shelley Kincasia, and Heather Paquette's art classes. I learned a few new vocabulary words in preparation for just introducing some of this artwork. You're going to see art forms related to tempera, monotype, charcoal, graphite, acrylic, monoprint, oil pastel, Georgia O'Keeffe-inspired abstract tempera, colored pencil, and wired sculptures in the round. And the subject really is around gesture, and they're very, very clever. So hopefully you'll take the opportunity before the end of the evening to really take a look here at the wonderful talent around the room. So thank you to the Waterford High School students and the art staff for the great displays. You have in front of you on your table a couple of pieces of information that I just wanted to highlight for you. We have 2 administrative vacancies at the end of this school year. So you see the timeline for Quaker Hill Elementary School for the principal search, and as it's been my practice is to share with the board the timeline. You will note that tomorrow we will post the positions. Those positions will be open for application through April 4th. We will have a search committee that will be appointed, and it will include members of the staff as well as parents and administrator from the district, and that will be part of the search process. This team will narrow the field, recommend candidates to the administrative team, and then I'll bring candidates to the board for an interview in May. So an important date to note is that we'll conduct the interview on May 15th, and then at the May 22nd Board of Education meeting we would do the appointment. You have as well the timeline for the search of the assistant principal at Waterford High School, and again this process will mirror what I just shared with Quaker Hill, again with interviews the night of the 15th, and then the recommendation at the May 22nd board meeting. So the posting is tomorrow, and there'll be a series of interviews. There will also be focus groups and online surveys for our parents for the Quaker Hill search. Just wanted to bring to your attention that the State Board of Education provided flexibility options to all of the districts across the state in regards to teacher evaluation. Craig and I met with our teacher evaluation committee just a week or so ago, I believe. And it was the consensus of the committee. In fact, it was the unanimous feeling of the committee that Waterford's in a little different place, having piloted it, and that we really want to stay the course for the year, not make any mid-course adjustments. However, this committee will reconvene in the spring and make recommendations for adjustments for the 14-15 school year. And of course, those recommendations will be brought to the board, which is now part of the statewide plan where the board gets to review it and adopt it. So that was an important piece for us to take a look at. Coming up, all of our grade 3 through 8 students, as well as our juniors, will participate in the field test of SBAC between March 18th and April 11th. Students in grades 5 and 8 will also take the CMT science test, and students in grade 10 will take the CAP test. The letter will be going home next week to all of our parents. We have a board meeting scheduled for March 27th, and at our last meeting, Kathleen asked if there were any board members that might be interested in attending the recognition for Dave Sousa, and we have 3 or 4 board members who would like to do that. So I think the board really needs to make a decision if you want to alter that meeting schedule and have a special meeting at some point in March. Otherwise, we would need to be sure we had a quorum in order to hold a meeting on that evening. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Another important calendar date, not only for the board, but I learned also for our administrators, March 19th, we'll be presenting our budget to the Board of Finance. So my hope is that all of you can make that as part of the review process. Not that we're counting, but we have had 6 snow days, and as of today, June 18th is the last day of school, and my hope is it will continue that way. Also, you have before you an email that I sent out to the entire staff regarding an opportunity to participate in payroll deduction for the Waterford Education Foundation. And I think this is a great idea, and this was emailed to all of the staff earlier this week. So my hope is that we'll have great participation. You also have a packet which gives you a sample of the standard space report cards for grades 1 through 5. These were designed by a committee of staff, and I think Glenda Dexter also worked with this team. And you see a brief flyer, kind of a handbook for parents with the new standard space report cards. These will be used during our next reporting system, and the elementary staff have had an opportunity to review, weigh in, and offer a number of suggestions for this particular report card. And lastly, I'll just say, and I know that we had a couple of members of our board at the State of Waterford that was sponsored by Chamber of Commerce. Both Dan Stewart and I attended and had an opportunity to address. I think we had a good 80 in attendance, 80 to 100. And then, of course, as we started to speak, all kinds of snow broke loose. But we did keep the audience in the room until we finished, which was great. And it was a great opportunity to interact with our local folks with their businesses and give a report on the Waterford Public Schools. So that's my update this evening.
Thank you. Do you want us to discuss the March meeting now, if we're going to have it or not, or how do board members feel about changing this tonight? Is that okay? Yeah. Do you want to have it the Thursday before, the week before, or the week after?
Would you want, with 3 members being absent, would you want us to kind of do an email survey and just get a sense as to the most attendance we get out of pipeline?
We have it after the Board of Finance.
We really can't, yeah, we really should have it after that. So we've got the 19th, which is a Wednesday, the week before, so. Would you like me to do a survey?
Yes.
That way we can get all 9 members to weigh in.
Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, 20 looks probably okay.
Okay.
Good.
Now we're down to committee and other reports. Anybody have any? Ethan?
I had a parent liaison report. We had a great meeting, and it was an opportunity to really present and discuss the budget with our parents. That was a great opportunity, and they were very appreciative of taking a look at our thinking, the staffing plan, class size plan in particular, so that was very helpful.
You're a great parent.
Yeah.
I did ask Sherry if she had a report from Warren, and she said that they got snowed out. I don't have a report from Newsers Bureau because we didn't have our meeting in February either. I do have a school building committee report. You could just read this at your leisure. The high school is coming along fine. We're working on the final punch list. And Gary's staying, and Jay and Craig are staying on top of everything.
All right.
Because that gets done correctly.
Thank you.
And we do not have a Friendship School governing board meeting yet, but I know they're having registrations now. And you can just get on the website and see the different activities that the parents there have planned. They're very busy, and the children are adorable. Okay, and the new business.
Okay, the first item we have this evening is a presentation by members of our language arts team, and I'm going to ask Craig if he would introduce the English language arts. curriculum update, and I shared with Jody that where we're doing a revision to the curriculum, we'd also be looking at a motion at the end of the presentation.
So, thank you. So normally, when we present a curriculum, we also present instructional materials, but back in the 2009-10 school year, we revised the language arts curriculum to include really bring us up to date. We had a lot of materials that were purchased then that really supported the curriculum. The year later, there was new national and state standards, for which then, as you can see from our committee, we've been working to refine that curriculum. And so the curriculum in front of you has no need for new additional resources. So it's just really utilizing those resources that we currently have because they were sound and solid, and really just raising up some of the expectations. And I'm going to have members of our English department, K-12, present. I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves as they start. I will tee it off by saying Ken Collins, our English department. Oh, you're second? Sorry. Sue Skokerbo, our Quaker Hill literacy specialist, will be starting.
Good evening. Happy to be here and share this curriculum with all of you. This shows the literacy instruction model that we use in K-12 in Waterford. And one of the things that you'll notice is that at the top of the page or slide, there's a teacher-directed whole group lesson section. And what we appreciate about that is that despite a student's skill level, that in that whole class lesson, they're all exposed to high-quality, complex text, types of strategies that they can use in literacy that are applicable to all students. But we also appreciate how, if you look further down at the student-facilitated group work, teacher-guided small group, there's opportunities to differentiate instruction based on what our students need. So we appreciate how this is applicable to K-12 and also how there's ongoing assessment that's shown, because of course if we're going to give an assessment, we want to give it with the purpose of informing our instruction and how to drive our instruction in the most effective way. So, thank you. I'm Tony Petcher, a literacy specialist at the high school.
I'm Ken Collins, the English department at high school. As Craig already said, a lot of you have seen us somewhat recently because we did a revision just 4 years ago. And we did do some comprehensive curriculum and got a lot of great resources thanks to the district. And we basically have been doing some changes because it's a living curriculum. And we have been focusing on state and national initiatives, as well as our local initiatives to support aspects of literacy on all levels and some other initiatives as well. So,
this is my second time of going through the curriculum revision process, and this opportunity has been so rich because we've had an opportunity to go back, realign our curriculum, but then develop units of study and do a lot of professional learning around instruction and some of the pieces that students would need to know.
When we say units of study, could you just give just a small explanation of that?
Sure.
Would you like to take it?
Sure.
Well, in the different schools, it's implemented in a variety of ways. But the curriculum has a lot of goals, a lot of standards, but it doesn't mean much unless the teachers are really taking it and making their own and really working together to get a sense of what are our goals and how are we going to implement this in the real classroom. So you will not find in the already large document our units of study because it would be about 10 to 12 times larger than it currently is. Each grade level has worked together in professional learning communities to look at the primary standards, look at lessons, come up with a variety of assessments that address a variety of needs, both for the school and also the types of assessments that they're going to see. Is there anything you'd like to add from other schools?
I was going to say, on a personal note, so I taught 10th grade this year, which isn't a grade level that I've ever taught before.
So having had that experience before, the curriculum was helpful, but having the units of study that were developed by several teachers, they were so creative, they were so comprehensive, it just made teaching something new really exciting and really easier to do.
And that's really what the implementation is showing up as, the creation and implementation. Yep.
Hi, I'm Allison Stahl, and I'm the grade 6-8 curriculum leader, language arts curriculum leader. And my job is to highlight for you the major shifts from the previous curriculum to this curriculum. So first is the balance of informational and literary text. Previously, we really focused more on the literary end. And now in the revised curriculum, there's much more variety in terms of nonfiction and fictional text. So the informational texts come not only in your typical newspaper articles, but it might be a memoir, it might be a diary, and some other forms I'm going to point out to you in just a moment. The close analysis of complex demanding text, you heard Sue refer to complex text. And this is a term that teachers throughout the district have been using quite closely in the last couple of years. So I'll start with the complex demanding text. What is complex text, as you heard it referred to over and over again by teachers? Complex text would be text that's just beyond a student's independent level. So it's not at a frustration level, but it's certainly not something that they would pick up and read with ease. The close analysis of this complex demanding text really requires students to think as critical readers and to return to the text more than once to not just get a basic understanding of what they're reading, but to really analyze different elements of the text that they wouldn't be able to get on the first read. In fact, if you wanted to know the page number, it's page 213, but you'll see if you were to refer to that page, for grade 6, there's a list of literary and informational text. There's also a list of anchor text for grade 6, and grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 has that. And it seems, oh, that's a nice text, that's a nice list of complex text, but the process through which we went to create that list was actually complex itself.
Yeah.
Because for years, we always had anchor text for the grade levels, but it was based on the student, not the student interest, but the grade level appropriateness of it. Now we look at things like, not only is the level of difficulty based on vocabulary complex, but does the genre make it complex, and other factors such as that. The next major shift, writing and presenting for a range of tasks, purposes, and audiences. Well, we've, of course, always focused on writing and language arts, but the shift comes now where writing is now a vehicle through which reading is assessed. So it's not easy any longer to separate reading and writing. Writing is integrated throughout, and it's actually necessary even during reading activities. Janice, do you want to give an example?
I'm Janice Bouchard. I'm the literacy specialist at Upper School. And if you want to take a look at your curriculum, a first grade example on pages 44 through 46, like Allison mentioned, how writing is now a vehicle through which we assess reading, because we are focusing on both informational and literary text equally at the elementary level. We're now focusing on those areas in writing. So previously we had a heavy focus on narrative writing in the early elementary grades, and then a shift to expository, but now in our curriculum we've built in opinion writing, informational writing, narrative writing, and poetry at all grade levels. So there's a comprehensive approach to covering all of those genres in writing as well.
And the next major shift, research tasks that synthesize reading, writing, and technology skills. This has been a major shift for us because, of course, we all know that information is easily and readily available to us, but we really strive to make our students become critical consumers of text. And this shift really not only would give them access to the text, but are we also giving them strategies so that they can critically analyze the sources of those, those different sites.
Well, and Ken will be showing this to you in action, but he'll be showing you what some 11th graders do with, we've done research, as Allison said, but it's really focusing on multiple texts in many different genres, including video, including film, but also the piece of students collaborating and speaking, listening to each other, using each other as sounding boards when they're creating their research pieces.
Student collaboration, rich and rigorous conversations that are text-dependent. So in the earlier curriculum, there was definitely a focus on getting students to connect to what they were reading and to tell us how they were feeling about the reading. And now it's definitely more text-to-center stage. So they can tell us what they think about the reading, but they have to very quickly back it up with text evidence. This has become a buzzword throughout all of our classrooms, K through 12. How do you know? And they have to be able to cite not just one example from the text, but multiple. And once they do, once they've created this understanding, then it's time for them to turn and talk to each other and see if in doing so, in collaborating and discussing, if their understanding can maybe even go a little bit deeper than if they were to do that just independently. The building of necessary vocabulary to access complex text, again, vocabulary is always an integral to language arts. But now, rather than giving students a list of vocabulary words, maybe prior to reading, are we giving them strategies to help them once they come to an unfamiliar word? Are they able to independently break down meaning and understand that word based on the context of their reading? Appropriate teacher scaffolding and support to ensure all students have access to text. The major shift here is the teacher is the facilitator. The teacher has a major role in providing a task that is rigorous, that requires some close analysis of a complex text, but the teacher is facilitating these student collaborations. So this has been quite a shift for us in language arts, where maybe the teacher was more in charge of providing questions or really guiding the reading, and now we're really demanding that students are asking the questions, and in so doing are coming to a deeper understanding of text.
And so we can talk about it all we want, but somebody said a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so we're going to kind of walk through some middle school, high school, and elementary school, kind of seeing this in action. And so you're going to see Louise Hanrahan, 7th grade language arts teacher. She's going to be focusing on two of the areas which Allison mentioned, which is a balance of informational literacy text and sort of a close analysis of that. And so, okay, there we go. And the sound's not on. Okay. And we lost something.
I want you to know it sounded great this afternoon. It really was. That was great. Oh, these are terrific. Samples.
Far right, is that a speaker on the far right, the far on the bottom?
Louise could be rather loud right now. Marky up there.
It was working? Just asking.
There's something unplugged now. I don't know.
Exciting. Can you get all those? Yeah. Well, did you try it again after you changed all those other spots?
No, we don't hear her. Maybe. So we have three examples, middle school, elementary, and high school. The high school relates to the research piece. The middle is really around the accountable talk and seeing students working in collaboration, having discussion with text. Here we go.
First thing I'd like you to do is turn and talk. My lesson, friends for lunch. Turn and talk about that now. So when it comes to close reading strategy.
I'm sorry. Just tee this up again.
The objective. Using what we'll be doing today is using close reading strategies to gain a meaningful and deep understanding of the text. First thing I'd like you to do is turn and talk about why did I name my lesson Friends for Life. Turn and talk about that now. So somebody when it comes to close reading, Elise, why don't you tell the class why you named this lesson Friends for Life?
I think the lesson is named Friends for Life because it's like saying that when we close read the poems, we're going to remember them for a long time, and we're not going to really forget about them, so we're going to remember them and we'll become our friends for life.
When I went through the poem 15, and I first got to know the poem, which means I read through what I noticed about the poem, and then after I noticed certain things about the poem, I go line by line and I imitate. And imitating here is basically you're thinking. What are you thinking when you read this line? So I went through the whole piece. You watched the video at home last night. The next part of this would be that I would personally talk to a partner. And I would have a conversation about the poem to deepen my understanding of the text. And then I would finally do a third read of the poem after I read it, I discussed it, using my understanding of the poem, and I would answer the question, what is the dramatic situation behind it? So the first thing I'd like everybody to do is just listen along as I read this poem. I'm not going to read it with much expression, I'm just reading it for the first time. And I'd like you to tell me what you noticed about the poem. Do you follow along on your page?
I said that the mother was sad because like something like that really
I was thinking like when the person is trying to water into the white wood, and like what the water appears.
I think maybe she's trying and I guess like moving away from everything. Yeah, talking to her.
Okay, so that's an example of we talked about close reading and really balancing that informational text at the middle school. Is there?
Yeah, in terms of high school.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the high school, this is an 11th grade class. You'll see Kindle setting them up. Mostly this is them. This is early on in a research project. They're presenting their research proposals and their initial research. And they ask the class for feedback on their thesis and also on the types of research they've done and if anybody could spot anything that they're missing or any flaws in their arguments. So the cameraman here was very, very inept. This guy. But so hopefully you'll be able to get a sense of that. It's really it's amazing to see what students themselves can really do in the way of guiding each other and refining their thoughts. And that's what that's really all about, the process of working together for research.
And this is advanced placement 11th grade.
Yep.
You go over your topics and your information. You don't have to read word for word all of your information. You're kind of summarizing explaining things like that at the bar and out of that. What is this about with our school children are being overdiagnosed with
my thesis is Northgate nursing over matters of technicality, for past freedom, and bandwidth sharing on the internet. Yes, we must plug in providers, we must try to how to use agency services. My first agnostic, discussing technicality and the necessary concepts for the application. So I did hear about this on the news, but have you ever seen any actual Congress debate on it? I don't know if Congress has done debates. Correct, they have it, how we can see automatically say jury trials or something like that. There's something online that you actually what they were arguing about, these staff things, or how one of those debates went.
And as Mr. Collins said, you can really see where the students are pushing each other's thinking. Only elementary?
Yeah. So our elementary example is the second grade class, and they're engaging in a lesson where they're using accountable talk, which is a framework that we're teaching that sort of helps students to engage in these meaningful discussions. And it's really starting to lay the framework and the foundation for those other rich conversations that you're seeing at the middle and high school level. So here's what it looks like in the second grade.
Kathleen Fernando's classroom in Wicked.
First thing, everyone has their informational copy. Everyone has their questions on their desk ready? Yes. Okay, so one copy per group working together. I'm going to walk around. I want to be listening to some of these discussions that are happening. Sound good? All right, have fun. Go do it. So I think what you're trying to tell. I agree. No, isn't it what we did? All the way off? Okay, do you agree with her? Okay, and how do you know it's the correct answer? When that is okay, you can highlight it. Yes. You use what you use what you schema and you use what else? You use that, okay? When you use your schema and you use your text, you put them together, what do you get? Real reading. Excellent. And a real conversation. Excellent.
So here you can see where, 3-4 years ago, we think we have a good curriculum, and curriculum is really an ever-living document, and as Tony mentioned, the ability to refine this and sort of put these in action as a trial before we fully implement is what you're seeing today. Erica?
And up here, this slide is just some of the ways that we've ensured that all the students have had access to the curriculum through different professional development opportunities that we provide to teachers throughout this year and all of last year. And I'll just give you an example. For example, last year at the elementary school, we had a whole day devoted to just close reading and marker day. And it was really a great day. We had teachers who came in and modeled close reading lessons to other teachers, and they used pretty complex poems to do that and made the teachers really go through that rigorous thinking to get them to what their students would be feeling like when we're asking them to do it. And then the second part of the day was the teachers then creating lessons working around those concepts that they were learning. And then we've developed and continued that work since then and have been embedding into things like community studies. So some of these, even though you see them up there one time, for example, units of study has been an ongoing process. You know, the last year that we've met probably over 10 times as groups. So it looks like a nice quick bullet point, but they're really quite meaty, rigorous things that we've accomplished that have allowed us to get some of the things that we saw on the
And a curriculum is only as good as how it's implemented. And in front of you are the many ways for which we're providing support so that all teachers are not only aware of, but they're very comfortable with this, and so that they can shine at teaching. So when you see coaching, you have many of the literacy coaches here tonight, and as Erica said, units of study is like curriculum. It will ever be refined and shaped. So with that, I'll be happy to myself or the team here address any questions you might have with the proposed curriculum.
Anybody have any questions?
I have an acknowledgement. I really would like to recognize the staff who presented tonight and really all of our teachers in our district who have really taken on this challenge to really upgrade and update our curriculum, and the quality of professional development and the leadership on the part of our staff has been exemplary. Really, hats off, guys. Really great.
Jerry said basically what I was going to say. I think you did a great job. I did read this from cover to cover. I should have started in the back because I had questions about different terms that I had never heard of before. So I had a list, and you had them all in the back where you explained everything. I was really happy to see the students are going to be studying the Greek and Latin roots of words to help them understand words. I love the way the curriculum seems to flow from grade to grade. And I know this took a lot of work. I have a question though. At the senior level, the freshmen and sophomores have standard, advanced, and honors. Now, junior and senior level though, they just have standard, advanced, and AP. They don't have the honors anymore.
That is correct. Well, it's usually listed H/AP. So there's no AP in the freshman and sophomore year because it's just we don't do that particular test. AP is really they're taking honors class, and most of them also choose to take an AP test at the end of the year. Although not all of them choose to take an AP test. Yep. Also, there's a senior ECE as well, so we've got H, AP, ECE, all sorts of that.
College. Yeah.
And also, I think this curriculum too helps with the SAT. Helps the students study for those also. And I love the way that the students are helping each other out now. It's not relying just on the teacher to get the students to do what they're supposed to be doing. You're having the buddy system or your whole class help you. I was impressed with the high school level, having the whole class help the students do their thesis, and I think you did a great job, and the curriculum is wonderful. And I hope you come back and report to us how it's going, and if you've changed any other things, or let us know how it's going if you need anything else. But thank you. We need a motion. If somebody'd like to make a motion that the Waterford Board of Education approves the revised language arts curriculum as presented. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Again, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Oh, are you leaving us?
I'm sorry, Laura.
Our next item relates to a policy that the board revised, and you asked that let's give it a good half a year or so and come back and report. So Andre Hauser, our high school principal, is here this evening to give you an update on the implementation of our Bring Your Own Device.
Thank you. Now, as Ken mentioned a minute ago, we have plenty of acronyms in high schools. BYOD stands for Bring Your Own Devices, and that is a reference to the fact that last year, or over the summer, we changed the policy at the high school with this new state-of-the-art building with Wi-Fi reception available everywhere, and with the technology resources for teaching that we now have. We wanted really to start beginning to teach kids how to use those technology devices they have as useful instructional tools as opposed to just really cool toys in your pocket that you're not supposed to have in school. And there are two basic, first of all, there's a reason for that. We don't really know what our students and labs are going to bring, but it's a safe bet that to be prepared for a productive 21st century life, kids are going to need to be able to use a variety of technology devices quickly and with facility for a variety of productivity purposes throughout their lives. There are two basic approaches that schools have taken as they begin to incorporate student use of devices into instruction. One is what's called a one-to-one approach, and typically with that, a school would purchase a laptop or a tablet for every student. Everyone would get the exact same device. It does allow certain uniformity. What it doesn't allow is a student problem-solving skill of learning how this device serves that purpose. It's also really expensive. Did a little bit of quick number crunching, and for a cool $500,000 or so, we could do that at Waterford High. For another, probably $300,000, we could get Park Lane involved. Or we could see what our students are capable of doing with their own devices. And that is where the bring your own devices approach comes in. And we're really trying to attempt to reproduce that real world. In the adult world, your employer rarely tells you which computer you must use, what brand of cell phone, what type of tablet, what app to use. They tell you the work that needs to be done, and they expect you to figure out how to do it. And that is what you call a device-agnostic approach, and that's what we're taking. We're not telling kids what is the best device. We're working with them and very often just watching them figure out on their own what is the best device. It's not about the device, it's about how you're learning to adapt to different technology environments. And where are we right now? First of all, we have one of the most technologically advanced school buildings in the state of Connecticut. We have Promethean boards, the big brother of this board here, in every one of our classrooms. We've got, as I already mentioned, that wireless connection. We've got teachers with laptops so that wherever they go, they're bringing their classroom with them. We've had a good deal of technology professional development. We train teachers in the use of Promethean boards. We train them in the Active Inspire software that the Promethean boards run. We've had two-day workshops so far this year on flipped classroom instruction, which is really embedding technology into instruction with the assumption that the students are going to access a lot of what they need in their own time, in their own way, but that they're going to access that information technologically. And personally, I think the neatest thing we're doing with technology professional development is every academic department has taken a faculty meeting, and they are giving us 10 to 15-minute presentations on some productive use of technology that they have found that is causing a positive impact in teaching and learning in their classrooms. And they then are presenting it to the teachers. If you want to see a group of people pay close attention and try something that's outside of their comfort zone, have the teachers teach each other. It's been remarkable, and they seem to be trying to outdo each other. Each presentation is a little bit more interactive, is a little bit more in-depth, has a little bit of something that we hadn't seen yet to it. I already mentioned the changes in policies and practices that are allowing us to do that. We've certainly got student enthusiasm. You tell students that those devices you used to get in trouble for having are now within reason an acceptable part of your high school experience, and you get a lot of students who are willing to experiment for you. And for the most part, they're doing it productively and appropriately. Now, it is important to note, though, we are at the very beginning of a long learning curve. This is our first semester with a radically different approach to dealing with students and their technology. The faculty are learners here, too. We are in this very interesting position of having students who, in many cases, know more about the devices that we're all using than we do. It's sometimes a very uncomfortable situation for us to be in, and I've got to tell you, my faculty has been tremendous in their willingness to try new things and their understanding that this is all a growth process. We are all learning. And you will see in the survey information I'm going to give you in a moment or two a wide variety in teacher practices and teacher comfort levels and in the reality of what's going on in different classrooms. And of course, and anytime you talk about a major change that impacts students in high school, you do have to look at the impact on school climate and student behavior. And it's important to note, we're still figuring out our boundaries right now. What is inside and outside of acceptable use. So, a week ago, we surveyed the faculty. 2 weeks ago, it just seems like a week because, well, you're not in school much usually. And we surveyed the faculty, and we asked them questions in 4 basic categories. Student access. How many of your kids actually have devices? What is the nature of the device that the students are bringing to school if they are bringing one? You can't really plan for something being part of what everybody has. They don't all have it. Student use of devices. How are they using them in appropriate ways? How are they using it in productive ways? And when they're not, what does that look like? We asked them about the approaches that faculty members are taking to having these as a resource, and of course the impact on school climate. Now, when we asked how many of your students have and use their own devices in class, we have such a variety. We've got about a fifth of the teachers saying everyone does. The vast majority saying, 90% say somewhere between half and all of the students in my class have regular access to a device. I was interested in the nuns, and it turns out the nuns came up and identified themselves. That's the gym teachers. It's really hard to use a device of any sort while playing a sport, and so they tell them to leave them behind. But in just about any other class, you're going to see some degree of student access to technology. What types of devices? I wasn't surprised by the first answer. 97% of the teachers said that they see students who have access to cell phones. I expected tablets to be the second highest. Laptops. 60% of the teachers say that at least some of their students are bringing laptops to class. And almost half reported seeing students bringing tablets. And the frequency of their use in class. How often are these used? You'll note that we're not at that point where everybody is using devices daily in class, but at least weekly, the majority, 60%, 70, 80% are using, at least on a weekly basis, we're seeing some sort of student use of devices in the classroom. And those nevers, those are the same 3% in still gym class. How are they using the devices? We came up with a list of the most likely categories and asked teachers to list how often they were using them for these purposes. You'll notice that the most common is access to online resources. And that's basically, it's the research process there. There's a lot that we used to just sort of gloss over not being certain about something. Nobody in the room could remember exactly what year this was done or exactly who the poet was who said whatever that really beautiful turn of phrase was. We used to just get as close as we could and move on. Now, you can have a kid look it up. And a minute later, you've got an answer to that one little piece. Sometimes it's just trivia, sometimes it really does enrich the lesson. Recording of homework, conducting research separate from just quickly accessing online resources. Communication, whether that's sending and receiving emails or text messages or actually in world language classes, students call their world language teacher's phone and leave messages in the target language so that you can have a number of kids doing an individual spoken assessment at the same time, and the teacher can then go back and listen to them later and listen to them again if they're not really certain what a kid has said and done. So it's an interesting approach that quickly caught on. I was very puzzled the first time I saw this happen. I was walking down the hallway in the world language wing, and I saw 6 or 7 kids out in the hall taking a phone call. I was very concerned. I stopped the first one and asked him, I said, this is a quiz. And I stopped the second one, it was still a quiz. And then I figured they must be telling me the truth. I checked with the teacher afterwards, and that's exactly what they were doing. It was an oral quiz they were conducting. And a variety of other uses, scaling down to, kids actually bringing in their own device to write rather than using our writing lab or waiting till they get home. Now then there's faculty approaches. Two very similar questions with slightly different answers. We asked them, do they plan lessons to incorporate students' devices into activities? And almost half of them said yes, they do, to some extent and in some way. However, when we asked, do they instruct lessons with the assumption that students have access to devices, you'll notice that only 30% said yes. That puzzled me at first, and I asked a few teachers, hey, did you give me a yes-no split on that? And if they said yes, I asked why. And it turns out that a lot of teachers are planning lessons with the assumption that some, but not all, will have access to a device. So when we're doing group work, if I know who has what on a typical day, I can divide groups so that every group will have somebody who can do some quick online research, somebody who can record the notes and email them out to the other members of the group. So, whatever that technology task is going to be. Whereas the assumption that everybody has a device, which would be that second question, we're just not there, and we're not willing to design lessons that require that everyone have something that we're not actually providing. Now, how frequently are students allowed to use their technology devices in class? You'll notice that the vast majority, 85%, have an approach where they allow the use of devices, but they set clear limits on it. And sometimes they say, the limit is, if I didn't give you instruction otherwise, you're able to use them. And in some cases, you become able to use them when I tell you that it's going to be acceptable and useful for this task. And there are a number of very different ways. I heard just last week about a teacher who's come up with sort of a red and green, stop and go. And if they just have two folders that are in the classroom, and the one that's visible on the board indicates if it's green, this is a class activity where feel free to get those devices out, do some research, look up that word, go to the translator, whatever the task might call for. If the red folder is the one that's visible, that's the clearly understood symbol. No, this one is the one you're doing just on your own or on your own with the paper resources or with a classmate, but not with access to technology. And then there's the impact on school climate. Now, it's important to note, we asked how frequently are students' technology devices a disciplinary issue in class. And at first you look at that number and you say daily, wow, 44%. But then you have to consider two things. One is we didn't ask about the severity of whatever that issue might be, and you also have to think about the fact that if your job involves working with teenagers day in, day out in situations, in classroom situations, a big piece of your job is about setting and reinforcing appropriate boundaries in all areas, in where you sit, in who you're talking to and when you're talking, in how you're talking. And so the idea that somewhere in that mix of 3 classes a day that you may be teaching, 20, 25 kids in that class each day, the idea that you might need to tell somebody, please put that away, please turn that off on a daily basis really isn't surprising. What was surprising to me was the less than monthly or never, 21%. A fifth of them, of course you subtract out the 3% who are gym teachers, but that still leaves you 18% who say these simply aren't a disciplinary issue in my classroom. And that speaks, I think, very well to the classroom management skills of our teachers. And the fact that the vast majority of our students really do recognize this is something for students' benefit that we're trying, and we all do need to work together on it. Now, we did ask about inappropriate use of devices in comparison to other behaviors. Are they more distracting, about the same, less distracting? That more distracting number does concern me. I think, even as adults, we're sometimes drawn to the screen in ways that we wish we weren't. And that's something that we definitely do need to work on. How do we work with kids to not be distracted by literally the bright, shiny object that they have on their desk. Yet, if you look at the referral statistics, as of February 20th, we have had a grand total of 384 office referrals for the year. Now, that is almost 60% of the school year with 800 kids going to 4 classes a day. That is a remarkably low number altogether. However, if you break them out by referrals that mention student-owned technology devices or any student use of technology, and all of the other ones, only 18 mention technology. That makes them 4.7% of all of the disciplinary issues that have been referred to the office this year. In the grand scheme of things, although the teachers are seeing some distracted behavior from students with these devices, it's not behavior that's rising to the level where they felt there's a need for administrative intervention, which tells you it's a manageable distraction. So in summary, we're seeing evidence of positive use in class. We're seeing a lot of different ways that students and teachers are making use of students' access to their own devices in class. The students are very often finding and sharing the things they can do. I was in the fall, I was in a classroom when there was a whole page of notes, and the teacher was about to erase part of it, and the student said, wait, don't do that. I need to take a picture of it. And there was a kid, I asked him about it afterwards. He said, I'm never going to get those diagrams right. Now I don't have to. And the student photographed the diagrams exactly as the teacher had drawn them. And teachers sharing those effective techniques. We're seeing that in the faculty meetings. We're definitely seeing various degrees of and approaches to use. It has a lot to do with each of our own prior knowledge, our comfort level, the PD opportunities. Some of us have been able to go to the flipped classroom training, some of us haven't yet. So some have more of a comfort level with using technology in instruction. And again, as I said before, it's a learning process for all of us. We're all learning how to teach with technology. We're all learning how to appropriately use and how to reinforce that appropriate use with kids. And there is a question of management of misuse. We did see in early winter a little bit of an uptick in students just getting comfortable with use of devices, and we were seeing more off-task behavior with them. So we redistributed the guidelines to all of the teachers, and right after our winter break, we asked them to just take a moment in class and reinforce again with kids what the expectations are. And that uptick that we were seeing building in November and December, that very small handful of referrals to the office actually dropped back down for January and February. So it's a learning process, but it's definitely one that is bearing fruit for us in high school.
Anybody have any questions?
One of the things that you read about in the literature is that young people today, because they're so reliant on these technical devices, they're losing the ability to have face-to-face human skills in the way that they communicate with other people. The language of the high tech is a shortened hybrid. It's not formal English. To what extent do you see that as a problem? If you do, how do you go about trying to counter that and make sure that our students have those skills?
Well, I can tell you that is a real concern. Is text speak going to ruin the spoken word and written language? And it turns out that there's a lot of research that says it's not, and anecdotally we're seeing that it's not. What's happening is students are learning, if they are taught to recognize this, that we communicate differently for different audiences. The way that you talk to your friends is not the same as the way you talk to your parents. It's certainly not the way that you talk to your teachers. The way that you write for one audience is not the same as for another. In the English language arts presentation, it talked about students writing for varied and authentic audiences. And this is an acknowledgement that writing in text or writing in emails, the way kids communicate with each other, is a shorthand. It's a legitimate shorthand with its own grammatical rules. Great. Use them when you're doing that, but when we're writing a paper, we're going to be doing something very different. You saw that 11th grade AT presentation where, these are kids who are very adept with their devices, very adept at text speak, but they were discussing and debating thesis statements, very academic language, and doing so appropriately.
Anybody else? Nick?
This might be a little out there someplace. In the event that somebody develops a new application or some program or something, whether, school device or own device, have we looked at what might happen to the ownership of the intellectual property, in other words, copyright infringements and all that?
Do you mean if a faculty member develops
Faculty or a student?
Well, I would assume that if a student develops, first of all, if I have a student develop a successful app, hooray, I'm going to pat every one of my tech ed teachers on the back. But if a student work belongs to students, and we really, what we're looking at with teachers is identifying the resources that are already out there and how do we make use of them in the classroom. I think that's a much more productive use of all of our time, and I think the faculty agrees with me, than devoting all of our time to learning how to code and write apps when there really are just, there's a sea of opportunity out there. It's about picking the right one.
Yeah, I asked because I've been in situations where I had developed something, the company owned it, and I didn't for a certain number of years and stuff like that. So
that's
it wouldn't come up.
Generally not really an issue. No. And if a student develops it, the student owns it. And I'm really proud to be able to say that was a Waterford High kid who did that.
That's right.
Anybody else? Any questions? Okay, thank you, Andre.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We had talked about when the board adopted the policy to come back and get a sense of how effective the use is. The high school will continue to monitor.
Okay, now we're on to the discussion regarding a progress report of the 2013-14 Board of Education goals.
I placed into your packet an update at this point in the year. If you recall, at our summer retreat, we identified areas that we wanted to focus on for this school year, and then during the fall, over the course of 2 board meetings, we had some discussion and we identified these 6 goals. The first goal I just want to highlight briefly. I really want to highlight all of this briefly and answer any questions that you might have. This has been the second year, because this is, if you recall, John Taglianetti really kind of pushed us to say, so how do we know we're a good school system? And really taking a look at that question, it's important to look at both quantitative data, how do our students achieve, as well as qualitative data. And what I've done for you in this particular report is really highlight the use of data and what does it tell us about our school system and how can we look at continuously improving our district. Talked about student achievement, college acceptance, our hiring practices, our client satisfaction, community support for our schools, as well as our climate surveys. And if you recall, the stakeholder surveys were the first time that we've done that town-wide at each of our schools. So I highlighted for you a breakdown on the student achievement, as well as the college acceptance, our hiring practice, the client satisfaction, and all of this data shouldn't be new to you because we presented this throughout the course of the fall with the various reports, but it kind of puts it all together. And one of the areas that we have for future focus is really to invite back recent graduates, and that's something that we want to do around the holiday break in December, January time, as well as in the springtime, and interview our students as well as provide some online surveys to our students. Really ask them the question, so how well were you prepared for this first year of whether it be employment or whether it be post-secondary education? So any questions related to the update on the first goal? The second one related to the understanding of Common Core state standards, 21st century skills. At the beginning of the year, we had an update on the implementation of our math curriculum, tonight language arts. You can see that here in Waterford, that the staff are very supported and very involved, moving along in a very sane way to really implement the core standards. And to keep in mind, Connecticut has always been a standard state. We've always had a framework for our curriculum as a state. And Craig and the work with our teacher leaders throughout the district have been very supportive of that particular initiative, as well as the curriculum renewal cycle that we have in place. And certainly you saw we didn't wait 7 years to renew the language arts curriculum. It's important that we continue to update that. The third goal that you established was really around safety, and you can see the way we've strengthened our lockdown drills, the use of the RFD badges, the addition of a security officer at the middle school, as well as taking a look at the mental health focus, and with our budget for 14-15, we've added additional social worker and school psychologist support, and the use of our Global Connect system to really update folks in case of emergency. The Board of Education Policy Manual, we have a very ambitious agenda this year. I'm sure you've noticed that. The district management from a financial perspective, one of the things that we continually remind ourselves is the importance of strong fiscal management and being fiscally responsible, and I think the appendix that we developed in our budget document really highlighting the work of the last 2 years with the savings and cost avoidance, and then with Bob and his staff in our finance office, really making sure that we're very transparent and we're very compliant with all rules and regulations. Opportunities with personal finance as well as international academic exchange programs. You can see that currently we offer a personal finance course at the high school. Over the course of this year, the policy committee will be taking a look at graduation requirements, and we will continue to explore opportunities for students to engage in international experiences. We'll be happy to address any questions you might have.
This really goes back, I think, to number one. I don't know if you have the answer, but I'm always curious about the DNGs. We know that Waterford's in a different classification than Bridgeport. And there are different demographic factors that go into that. But what I've never seen is if they give us a numerical score, and if they do, where we would stand with the other districts in our DNG.
Well, I think there's two different responses to that. What was interesting when we shared with the school performance in comparison to all school districts in the district, you saw that the state took a look at all the student performance data, and from a middle school perspective, they said students at Clark Lane Middle School achieve in the top 10% of all middle schools in the state.
No, that's not what I meant. I mean, I saw that, but if you didn't have any test scores, if you just took the, 24 in our group, in our district, where you would expect Waterford to rank based on its demographics?
So, this gets to when the state moved from an economic reference group to a district reference group back in 2007, I think. It could get a year long. There was a board report for which I referenced in passing and doing past analysis. And we moved from economic reference group F to district reference group D. And in those 24 towns, Greg, for which you were saying, we ranked right in the middle. We ranked 13th in that initial placement. So I've said in past TNT and CAP reports that if we're doing, better than half, then we are outperforming at least that task system placement of where we were in the district reference group. And it has been our goal to be in the top third.
Yeah. That's helpful. I haven't heard that before.
Of our third. And what you're finding in Jerry's reference is that we are in that top third. So we're, in that sense, we're outperforming where we were initially placed in that district reference group. And if it's helpful, I can remind the board of that state report.
Do they update that?
Every 10 years because of the census issue. Yeah. So it's a dated report now, but that's the latest information we have.
And it really kind of moves now, taking a look at where are you in the entire state of Connecticut. In that last report that we gave to the board, that's been a shift. But it'll be interesting to see if, with the new testing, if we continue with district reference groups. Thank you for your help with that.
Any other questions or comments?
So you can see we've been working at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we do this on an annual basis. You have, tonight you have before you the need to take action on the healthy food certification statement for 14-15, and the board would need to have a motion on this, and then we'll sign off and send it to the state.
And all Connecticut school districts participating in the National School Lunch Program are certified on an annual basis. So, the Waterford School Board of Education certifies that all will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards for the period from July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015, and authorizes the superintendent to sign the Healthy Food Certification Statement for the 2014-15 school year.
Okay. Is there a second? Dave? Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now on to the second reading and possible action of the policies. These policies presented the first reading previously, and policy 5132 has been revised slightly based on discussion at last month's meeting. Action on policy 5141.4 was tabled at the January meeting pending correction required on page G, letter K. The other two policies are as presented previously. So, the first policy that we're going to ask for approval tonight is policy 5132, the dress and grooming, and it was enclosed in our packet. Do you want to say anything?
Jody, just to reiterate what you said, based upon the feedback from the last board meeting, when it was in its first reading, you'll see that letters A, B, F, and G have been revised, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board might have in those areas.
How does the board want to approach it? We're going to do these separately, correct, or do you want to do them all together?
I have another different issue.
Dave?
Yeah, I just want to look at item H. Maybe it says attire or accessories that contain vulgarity or that contain overly offensive or something. I don't know if we seem to have missed that. What is overly offensive? What's offensive at all? Is that an issue that's worth hashing out again?
I mean, generally speaking, when it disrupts the educational process, that's when the overly offensiveness would kick in, and offensiveness. And so, Andre, you might be able to give kind of some examples for which you would say this is not appropriate, or don't wear this one again because it could, could raise some ruckus.
Well, I won't give you any examples of overly offensive things, but I actually recently was at a workshop with an education attorney who was talking about recent case law involving clothing or accessories with messages that some in the school community found offensive. And there really is a two-part test, which is, one, did this viewer find it to be offensive? But then the second part of it that you really also need to get to is, would the typical viewer see this as offensive? And a lot of the case law actually comes specifically from a lot of the sort of breast cancer support messaging, where you see a lot of the high heart boobies, bracelets, shirts, things like that. And those were, within that particular context, found not to be overly offensive. Whereas references to the same part of the anatomy separate from reference to cancer research and support might be overly offensive. So there is sort of an eyebrow test, really. Does everybody's eyebrow go up, or just one person?
So in a way, we're acknowledging that everybody's going to be upset about something sometime.
Ultimately, you all have the right to be offended by something, but this gives us the leeway to decide whether it's something that all of us might potentially be offended enough by to limit student display of it.
Yeah. So that's safe.
Any more discussion on that? So would someone like to make a motion regarding policy 6132, moving it?
So moved. Second.
The motion was the Waterford Board of Education approves policy 6132, dressing grooming, as presented and amended. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. On to policy 5141.4, reports respecting abuse or neglect of children.
And you can see on letter G, the reference, erroneous reference was corrected and correctly labeled. And so that was why we put it on pause, the approval item. So this would actually be, up for first reading. But basically, the changes in here were requirements from Public Act 1353, where we've added language to explicitly prohibit any employee from preventing or attempting to prevent any other employee from making a DCF report. So that was the legislative change to add to this existing policy. We're happy to answer any other questions you may have at this time. So because we tabled it at the last meeting, I believe we consider this a first reading.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so we'll bring this back in the next meeting. Okay, on to the school calendar.
So for the school calendar, this acknowledges the state statute to have the reps coordinate calendars, and you'll remember from the last board meeting, we really did a presentation around that. So that's up for approval tonight.
Any questions about that policy? Okay, would someone like to make a motion that the Waterford Board of Education approves policy 6111, school calendar as presented and amended?
So moved.
Second? Dave Kenny?
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to policy 6112, school day.
And as you recall from the last board meeting, we really have updated the hours for elementary. We took out kindergarten. We've allowed for some flexibility in the amount of student days. Instead of having a minimum of 182, we've now lowered that minimum of at least 181, and that afforded us the opportunity to do parent-teacher conferences on Veterans Day for next year as the board adopted its calendar. So those are the changes.
Any questions? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion that the Waterford Board of Education approves policy 6112, school calendar as presented and amended? Dave Kenny?
Second.
Ian? Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Now, on to our first reading. First readings of these policies are presented for reading and discussion. All three policies are proposed relocations from Theory 6000 and instruction if they pertain to either administrative Theory 2000 or student-related Theory 5000 issues. These policies will be reviewed again and for possible action at the next meeting. Okay, first one is policy 2000, administration.
Correct. So as Jody said, we're taking it out of the instructional series and putting it in the administrative. The large change really is found the regulations, letter B, so your yellow pages, letter B, where we're automatically keeping the information. We only kept it from 18 months prior because we were cautious about storage capacity. And what we found was there are some reasons why we want to keep electronic email more than 18 months. So we've increased that to 60 months, and our IT director has put on sort of size limits on your mailboxes, which means that the employee has to sort of self-select to manage that capacity space, so that our concern for records retention has been sort of minimized. So that, in addition to having our legal counsel just sort of tee up, I think, why we're providing sort of the computers a little bit better in letter A of the policy statement. So those are the big changes.
Any questions about that policy? Okay, that was for first reading, so we don't have to vote on that tonight. Policy 2301, holds on the destruction of electronic information and paper records.
And for this one, since we were changing out of the theories from instruction to administration, we did the same here. And the only real big change is that it would be best practice to have a go-to document, a letter, drafted if we have to stop the deletion of any records if there's a claim that we might need it.
Any questions about this policy? Okay, again, that was the first reading, so we don't have to vote on that tonight. The very last one, 35,000 students, policy 5155, student privacy.
So this policy has been revised in all aspects of student privacy and is not related to student surveys. So when you think of the initial title was surveys of students, and yet we have always had a research in school by external interest surveys policy 5156. So renaming this student privacy and cleaning up some of the languages, some semantic changes and some clarifications between the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act and the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment. You see what looks to be very similar sort of definitions, but they're two different laws, so it's very much like a Venn diagram. There's a lot of overlap, but there are some strategic differences for which we vetted out in the policy subcommittee.
Does anybody have any questions about this policy? Okay. Again, that was the first reading, so we don't have to vote on that tonight. We will at our next meeting. Is there anything else anybody would like? Ian's giving me an evil eye. Okay, motion to adjourn?
It's nice to be back. Motion to adjourn.
Excited to have you back. Is there a second? Okay, Dave Kenny. All those in favor? Anybody opposed?